Okay, so I know I promised that the video about the UK would be next, but I had an idea. I wanted to try it out while the iron's still hot, so here we go. I am an incredibly visual person. If I'm listening to music, a good visual element really helps me connect to the song, and it helps give movement to the sound itself. When I'm not watching the music video to a song, I'm usually imagining visuals in my mind's eye. It's probably not a surprise then that I am obsessed with Eurovision staging. Like a music video, it has so many elements from lighting design to choreography to props and visual effects, but it's not unlimited. Unlike a music video, creatives working on a stage production like Eurovision are often restricted by what's possible live and what a few cameras can capture without accidentally capturing each other. These restrictions are what makes Eurovision performances so infinitely fascinating to me. So, for this new series, which I am hereby naming Save Our Staging, I want to look at a song and really break down the elements of its staging, picking apart what does and doesn't work, and coming up with some ideas of my own. Real backseat designer stuff here, that's not going to annoy people at all. That said, before we get started, I want to make it clear I have no way want to undermine the creative teams behind the performances and all the work they put into them, nor do I want to be imposing and forcing anything I say onto them. Just think of this more as a personal creative exercise that I've decided to post online for all to see. Anyway, for our first trip into this weird hypothetical rabbit hole, we are off to Norway. A new year means a new season of Melodi Grand Prix, and this year it means we can finally leave the awful wolf minions in the purse where they belong. While the fans go wild over some screaming, there's one song in MGP this year that really caught my attention. Ekko, Inni by Jone. This pop song lifts from Scandinavian folklore and traditional cow calling, yes really, to tell the tale of a young lad after a breakup who still feels his ex yearn for him for a song that he hears like an echo in his mind. You see, it's like the title. From its bouncy rhythm over dark electronic production to that killer vocal hook from featured artist Silke, there is a lot to like. Most excitedly, if this song somehow defies the odds to win, it'll be our first time hearing Norwegian at Eurovision since 2006. But I feel like if Jone and his team want to secure that ticket to Liverpool, and that is weird to say as a Brit, there are a few things I think need slightly tidying up in this performance ahead of the final next weekend. One thing I won't cover here is the choreography. Beyond the fact that I am not a choreographer, we don't really have the full picture of what the choreo will look like, as Jone couldn't perform to the best of his abilities due to sadly breaking a rib during the filming of his music video. They could still adjust the choreo that we have seen, but I'm gonna focus on other stuff. Another thing worth noting before we jump into the performance itself is that the stage at MGP this year is a little more limited than what we would likely see at Eurovision. A little smaller, sure, but also lacking the Eurovision classic of a giant LED screen wall. Keep this in mind as we go along.
Jone, Ekko, Inni.
The song starts with a short snippet of the main hook, complete with a pre-recorded shot of Silke singing it. These shots reappear throughout the performance, and I'm personally not the biggest fan. They're okay when used sparingly, but I've made it clear that the limitations of a live performance are part of Eurovision's appeal to me, and elements like this feel detached from the rest of the show. After all, if the audience in the arena doesn't get to see it, what's the point? Norway's no stranger to this chick, having the lyrics patronisingly popping up on screen for their entry last year. Their 2017 entry grabbed the moment, also used a suspiciously familiar set of shots for their post-chorus, which consisted of a set of pre-recorded mashed up vocals, which back then was such a novel idea that they needed special permission from the EBU to do it. But beyond the novelty at the time, there was a clear difference here. The overlay and grab the moment was of the song's main performer Alexander, who was standing on stage and had a physical presence throughout the song. Silke only appears in these overlays, which makes sense in the context of the lyrics, but still leaves a key element of the song, the main hook, feeling detached and dissonant. For me, an easy fix would be to take advantage of the video walls they'll eventually have access to if they make it to Liverpool, although here's hoping an Inni adds them to the MGP set for the final. Maybe they could have the occasional overlay mixed in to keep the audience on their toes, but have the majority of Silke's appearance as part of a physical on-stage package. I've seen a few people question why Silke herself doesn't appear on stage, which would be another solution to the problem, but that would likely just contradict the whole point of the song. It could make for a really cool reveal in the last minute if she just dramatically appeared on stage though. Anyway, we're jumping way ahead here. The scene then cuts from Silke's floating space head to Jone, dressed in his young blood best, standing in front of some grey torn up background. So the main prop of this performance consists of these 4 panels with various rips and tears across them. One side shows a dull metallic grey while the other appears to have been covered with tinfoil. Now, I see what they were going for here, with the dancers hiding behind the screens, light filtering through the rips and bouncing off the foil, and there's definitely some clever use of the props, but could sometimes be lost behind a few of the camera angles used, and the screens are all but forgotten about by the end of the performance. During the bridge, the dancers just scuttle off stage when it would almost be easier to hide behind the screens for this section, which would allow for one more dramatic movement of the screens. Maybe that's how Silke makes her entrance. As we reach the first chorus, we come across another underutilised element. These handheld lights that the dancers have to awkwardly run off to grab. This isn't an entirely novel concept. Little Dot by Dotter, which was a fan favourite in Sweden's Melodi Festivalen back in 2021, was perhaps the most notable use of it, but Poland also tried the same effect for that entry that same year. With Ekko Inni, the dancers use larger lights, which look way more effective than the examples I gave, but the fact that these lights are bigger is kind of part of the problem here, since they can't just be attached to the dancer's gloves and carried around for the whole performance. Poor choreographer probably spent ages trying to work out the best way around this, and what they have isn't bad, but I almost feel like it's a compromise in the wrong direction. A smaller light used to its full potential throughout the performance would have worked fine, and maybe felt like less of a missed opportunity. If they decide to keep the larger lights for just the first chorus, I'd probably try to bring them on earlier. Having the hand lights pulse to the beat of Silke's section would add so much to the impacts of it, and wouldn't leave Jone so lonely on that stage without any backup or parts to sing, especially as we've now removed the distraction of the overlay from that section. Of course, it would mean that the dancers would have to somehow hide their lights behind the moving walls, pick them up, and then find a way to spin the screens around while still holding the lights. I think a few adjustments may be needed in the way the dancers first enter. Speaking of lights, I want to look at some of the lighting design used here because there is some really good stuff. The way the main props have been designed to work with the lights, filtering through and bouncing off the reflective surfaces, is very effective and quite clever. I like the progression of the simple white lighting to this bluey green and then finally red in the bridge, but I'd quite like to see him play with combining those colour schemes a little. Fellow MGP competitors Umami Tsunami, yes that is a real band name, do this well, with the performance lit in red standing out against the back wall in blue. Red and green is such a lovely colour combination for lighting, guys, take advantage of it. I do have one problem with the lighting though, it's a bit dark. Yeah, I know it's a dark sounding song, but having the lighting stripped down for so much of the performance means it's harder to pull things back for sections that need more intensity, slow-mo style. The second rendition of the chorus, or pre-chorus, however you want to label it, would have so much more impact if the lighting was significantly darker than the rest of the song. But because the lighting is already pretty dim, there's not much they can do without leaving the audience completely unable to see what's happening. This is another thing that could perhaps be helped by performing on stage with a big old LED screen, as there'd be a more consistently lit background. Even a simple colour gradient or star background during the other segments would really help the darker moments pop. Yeah, as a designer, I hate that word too, but it works fine here. Just leave it. At this point, we've basically covered the whole song, despite our run through of the performance not technically getting past the first chorus, so quickly have a look at the second verse. I've touched on the lighting already and it works, but such a fast section of the song could do some slightly tighter camera angles and some additional cuts. Don't get me wrong, there are some really nice ones in there already, but I want more. And the performance, the tempo of the visuals really help drive a song's pace, so rapidly changing the camera shots would really sell the contrast between the chorus and this verse. Also, this pose here, love it, emphasize it, really sell it. They can find a way to stick a camera dead on Jone, slightly zoomed out for this bit, do it. This bit here is nice. Wide shot releasing some of the tension from the constant cuts while also emphasizing the bigger notes being hit here. I would maybe zoom out instead of in. I feel like that would really just sell the change in scale. Other than that, the camera work just leads to sort of tightening and refinement I mentioned earlier, which often comes across naturally anyway as a result of rehearsal and iteration. In fact, there's a chance that any of the changes I've suggested here have already been implemented for the MGP final through that process already. Such is the nature of the creative process. We already know that there will be changes just from the fact that Jone has had more time to recover from his injury and can hopefully perform to his full potential. Ekko Inni is still considered an outsider when it comes to winning MGP, but it's rising up the Norwegian Spotify charts as we speak. And there's always a chance it could surprise. Ooh, especially if they had a bunch of fog and hits of pyro here, and here. Oh my god, it's perfect. Trophy's coming home now, girls. Oslo 2024, here we come. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is sort of a test I've wanted to try for a while. If I do more, I really want to get more ambitious with the concept. What that means, well, I'll find out at the same time as you probably. If you want to see more from me, then obviously like the video, subscribe to my channel, all of that good stuff. I've also been posting shorts on TikTok recently, and I'm about to start posting on Tumblr again. Once you follow me on those sites, be sure to check out some of my other videos on here. If you're curious about some of the other stuff I've been working on, I've got a link to my show reel on screen now as well. Thanks again everyone, and ciao for now.